Good afternoon. My name is Cedric Armstrong. I have prepared my artist management review for Miss Cassie Willard for product and artist management on Sharon Osbourne. Sharon Rachel Arden is daughter to the original manager of the rock group Black Sabbath. Don Arden was his name and is her father, who was the manager of the rock group Black Sabbath. Today known as Sharon Osbourne, wife, mother, celebrity, and manager of Ozzy Osbourne. Though she has been in entertainment since her father managed Black Sabbath, it seems that we began to know Sharon as a more familiar household basis through the reality show The Osbournes, which premiered on the network MTV. This show, like many, exploited the views and the reality of the Osbournes family for the world to see. Here's where we became most familiar with Sharon Osbourne, but would later realize the power of stardom as a manager and producer. We would see her throughout television networks, but in no limitation to the talent series of X Factors where Sharon was a celebrity judge. While working for her father, Osbourne was a vocalist that she met at the age of 18 and began eventually dating him when he was fired. When Ozzy was fired and they began dating, Sharon began to manage him and was able to manage him into the successful career and brand he is today. The brand that was remarkably created through her management would allow her husband to grow into a rock mogul that we know today that heads a seasonal festival we know as Ozfest. With this exemplary feat and accomplishment with previous accomplishments, Sharon would soon expand to her own production company of Sharon Osbourne Management. This would bring in relationships with managed artists such as Gary Moore, Motorhead, Leader Ford, the Smashing Pumpkins, and Cold Chamber. She co-managed a band called Q with Cud guitarist Mike Dunphy. Cube was signed to Polydor Records but has had limited success. She has also turned down career guidance requests from Fred Durst, Guns N' Roses, and Courtney Love. As mentioned, Sharon first came to full view for America through her debut, along with her family on the series Osbourne. Here we learn of a more interpersonal side of herself and her family. This brought in a perspective of some of the health issues that she sustained, as well as colon cancer. Sharon has since then and before the Osbournes debuted on television in several outlets in the U.S. and abroad. This includes appearances, including but in no limitation to UK's X Factor, where she was a judge and mentor to contenders of talent on the show. She also appeared on several talk shows, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and America's Got Talent. Sharon Osbourne is wrestling at a net worth of at least $220 million and has had great practical experience from her father, managing her husband and others, and the practical work experience from outlets such as being a television talk show host. Factors that resonate about the Sharon Osbourne as a manager and that are reflected in her actions as a manager with many music artists include but are not in limitation to factors and concepts that she relies on, such as managing your PR. She mentions in the actual magazine where she was interviewed and actually repeated the actual concepts that were accessible through her management. Again, managing your PR, as mentioned by Sharon Osbourne, the National Enquirer camped outside of her house for 3 days and asked her neighbors if they could gain access to her property from their property. As mentioned, as if everything isn't known about us already, said Miss Osborne. It's like, what do they think? Osbornes may have some 11-year-old Asian boy locked up and he's a homosexual or something. This basically brings in the perspective of knowing what you put out to the public and being prepared with what actually comes back in. And also just sustaining your brand across the board due to the fact that music as well as many other aspects of the entertainment industry are viewable by the public. Another one of her concepts is marry your job. She mentions, I worked with Ozzy before I married him, but oh, he's the biggest pain in the ass. Most artists are, but at least with Ozzy, you take it because he's a great artist. This brings in the actual perspective of any job, I would say, whether it is entertainment or any other industry. You should love what you do or have some kind of goal or efficient means of remaining productive and keeping a high morale, as mentioned in the actual source of Abram's successful business plans. One individual should be almost one with their actual work to almost be able to have their own source of direction throughout the process. Another one of concepts that resonated about Miss Osborne's manageability is customer satisfaction sales. Though she's in a industry where you have to kind of put your foot down to make sure that you get what you need and is efficient, especially as a manager for your artists. As mentioned, Osborne says Ozfest is especially profitable for Clear Channel because we play in their building and they make a shitload of money. Excuse my language, just mentioning based on what she did actually say. They make a great amount of money, anywhere from $26.4 million last year in revenues, according to Polestar. Osborne went into the CEO's office and he said to her, I honestly don't give another curse word, excuse me, Frank, what your husband sings. What he does, all I know is he sells a lot of beers, which brings in the actual perspective from a company's perspective, though that Sharon's best point of return is making sure that her artists as well as her actual company is doing the best and most for the actual artist. The actual company and customers that she is supplying this actual service to may have a different perspective of what satisfaction is. But in her instance, she believes in being able to satisfy them all the way around throughout the brand, the artist, as well as her actions that she actually puts out. Additional factors that she mentioned that also resonated, besides the three, about her area of management and how she takes on the actual time to manage. She follows her gut. She mentioned that the situation is we've always been sort of the underdog, and I've never ever wanted to have a huge empire. Osborne says we've always been loners and done it our way, not the corporate way. We've never had a safety net. We've always been like, oh crap, if this doesn't work, we're in the toilet. She also plays to win. Unless you play golf and in our industry, you're quite messed up. What would happen if all the women said we're going to a ballet instead of attending Ozfest or one of the actual industry's events that she hosts or helps assisting through management, and that they'll be back in 3 days. That would actually be an inconvenience for the actual manager, the artist, as well as anyone else that is involved in the aspect of what is going on that correlates with that artist and the manager. So she makes sure that she plans accordingly through her manageability as the actual manager for the artist throughout this industry to assure that there is a win-win aspect for all parties involved. I have mentioned my actual references for my photos as well as my interpretation of Miss Sharon Osbourne. I do thank you for taking the time to view my project, and you have an awesome day.